All right, so the big talk right now is Eddie Hearn coming out and confirming that the IBF have officially ordered Alexander Usyk to defend his heavyweight title against mandatory challenger Philip Hrgovic, who is co-promoted, by Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn and Sauerland co-promote Philip Hrgovic. Now, Eddie Hearn also said that this will basically stop the Tyson Fury Alexander Usyk fight, or let's say push it back for now. Now, you guys may remember when Usyk beat AJ for the second time. In the immediate aftermath, I said in several videos that I wanted the undisputed fight between Usyk and Fury to happen ASAP because the IBF are likely to impose a mandatory on him sooner rather than later. That's what the IBF tend to do. I know some people have shown examples where the IBF haven't done that. I think people have cited Errol Spence as being one of the examples. But for the most part, they expedite their mandatories very, very quickly, much more quickly than the other sanctioning bodies. And so you want to get a deal done for the undisputed before that happens, ideally, because it can jeopardize it. According to Eddie Hearn, Hrgovic has no desire to step aside at this point. So if things stay as they are, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk cannot happen next. However, in most cases, people have their price. It's just a matter of meeting their price. And I'm talking about step aside money. If Philip Hrgovic has shown the right number and they tell him, look, we can wire this money to you right away, and all you've got to do is just wait to get your shot at the winner of Fury versus Usyk. We'll pay you whatever, 5 million, 10 million. You're going to get paid twice because you'll get paid for waiting. Then you'll get paid when you actually fight. You want to do it? We'll see what Hrgovic says then. We'll see what his number is then. I hope that it's just Hrgovic who is determining whether the Usyk Fury fight can go ahead in terms of stepping aside. I would like to think that's the case. I would not like to think that it's maybe DAZN or Eddie Hearn or whoever, Sauerland, that's involved in, I don't know, convincing Hrgovic that he shouldn't step aside, or some other type of shenanigans going on behind the scenes to try and sabotage the undisputed fight. I would hope it's no more political than just Philip Hrgovic himself wanting to be shown the right number. Yeah. And I'm not saying that it's not those other things. I'm just saying that, being the optimist that I am, I hope it's not those other things. Because we don't need that in boxing. Particularly when you got Eddie Hearn criticizing the likes of Al Heyman for stopping so many big fights happening. For him to then turn around and be involved in stopping a big fight happening himself, the hypocrisy would just be too much for my boxing brain to bear. As a tortured boxing fan, we don't need this kind of stuff. We need the big fights to happen promptly. So, again, I don't know whether it's Eddie Hearn and Sauerland and DAZN involved in making sure that Hrgovic Usyk scuppers any chances of Usyk versus Fury next. I don't know whether that is or isn't the case. I just hope it's not the case. And between Usyk and Fury and whoever else, the Saudis, they just show Hrgovic the right amount of money. Just cut him the right kind of check, let him step aside, and we can have the undisputed fight after Fury gets through with Del Boy for a third time. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think it's Eddie Hearn up to because I know people love to blame Eddie Hearn for everything, and of course he is to blame for some things, but people do go overboard, I think, with Eddie Hearn. Sauerland, he kind of gets off the hook a lot, right? He has this kind of cult following where people are always laughing at his facial expressions and his tics and just the wild look in his eyes in interviews and in thumbnails. So that kind of, to some extent, shields him from a lot of the criticism, rightly or wrongly, that Eddie Hearn gets. So anyway, Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about the IBF enforcing this mandatory on Alexander Usyk against Filip Hrgovic. And as far as the fight itself, it's a very good fight. It's not like they're forcing a useless mandatory or someone who wouldn't make for a good fight against Usyk. No, this is a young, relatively young fighter, undefeated, very ambitious, coming off a tough fight against Zhilei Zhang, who he admitted he underestimated. And stylistically, I think it's really fascinating against Alexander Usyk. Being that both guys are from Eastern Europe, obviously Alexander Usyk is several years older. I'm sure Filip Hrgovic would have encountered people with a similar style to Usyk in the amateurs, in that Eastern European amateur scene. I'm sure he would have encountered people like that in amateur fights and also in sparring and what have you. So I don't think it will be such a stylistic shock to Hrgovic going up against Usyk as it was to someone like Anthony Joshua, for example. Obviously, Anthony Joshua did fight Eastern Europeans when he was an amateur, but he didn't have as long an amateur career as Filip Hrgovic did. So I think for Hrgovic, it will be less of a shock stylistically facing Usyk. And I wouldn't at all be surprised, despite his lack of professional experience, I wouldn't at all be surprised if Hrgovic gives a better account of himself against Usyk than Anthony Joshua did in both fights. I wouldn't at all be surprised by that. Even though Hrgovic isn't quite as athletic as AJ and all that kind of thing, not as explosive, I think he's got more confidence in his chin, Filip Hrgovic, and he hasn't, as Teddy Atlas likes to say, and many other commentators, he hasn't learned how to lose yet. So I think he'll go in there and give it a real go. Whether it'll be enough to beat Alexander Usyk remains to be seen. I suspect not. But if he did go in there and take the bull by the horns and manage to get physical with Alexander Usyk and get the job done, it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world to me. So yeah, as a fight in and of itself, it's a very good fight, and I'm happy to see it in any other circumstances. Unfortunately, it's in a situation where there's another fight that I want to see even more, the undisputed fight. Therefore, I would like Mr. Hrgovic, just as a boxing fan, to take a nice big check, step aside and let us see Usyk Fury first. Pretty please. And whoever is the money behind Usyk Fury, make it happen. That's my plea to you guys. Make it happen. Let me know what you lot think in the comment section below. If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms, and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high-quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, is decentralized, and is 100% censorship-free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.